Have you ever been in a relationship or ever had a relationship and you just couldn't figure out why you and your ex didn't work out? You couldn't figure out why you guys couldn't stay happy? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because my ex happened to message me and apologized for how the way things ended. And I replied, it's okay. Like, the past is the past, and I assured her that simply things went the way they did because, that's how it did. We did the best that we could in that time because that's the people that we were back then, and there was nothing we can do about it. That's a very general answer, but that's pretty much the truth of what had happened in my past relationship. And I wanted to highlight that, from what I know now, that happiness doesn't come from other people. Happiness doesn't come from relationships. It doesn't come from romantic relationships. It doesn't come from family or friends. Happiness comes from ourselves, real happiness. Because relationships, no matter what it may be, family, friends, romance, they're there to enhance the happiness that you already have inside. For my past relationship, when I used to question why didn't things work out, we had so many things in common, despite some other factors that kept us away from each other. We could have been happy, but that's just not how relationships work. And that's not how happiness works. For me, I was very insecure in my past relationship. I didn't know where to go in my life. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what I wanted to do. And even worse, I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't know how to say no. And for my ex, she was suffering through depression, and she still is. She really did her best to stay in a relationship, even though she knew she couldn't, and even though I knew that we probably wouldn't work out either. What I realize now is that whether you're depressed or not, whatever relationship you may have had, or maybe one that you're in now, you want to make sure that you're not using your relationship as an emotional crutch, no matter what relationship that may be. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, because when you use a relationship as an emotional crutch, you're, in a sense, using that as a substitute happiness, which in the long run will fall apart. It's gonna hurt you. It's gonna hurt your partner in the end. It's just gonna collapse. Real happiness comes from understanding who you really are and acknowledging that you can do what you can within your own power. It revolves around the things like taking responsibility for your actions and knowing when to say no for yourself and knowing when you can do something for someone else or not. And when it comes to people who are depressed, it's a very difficult battle. It's like living life and setting the difficulty to the max level without even knowing that you did and without knowing how to change it back. The other thing I wanted to highlight was that, when it comes to depression, it's a very long, slow, and steady process, but what's important is the focus on taking care of yourself, taking care of your needs, taking care of what you need. That has a lot to do with self-respect, self-love, self-happiness. To build that confidence within yourself to do what you must do for yourself. And as much as we want to tell others that, as much as we want to help people around us who may be depressed, that's also why it's important. It's important because you have to realize that those decisions, any decision, but the biggest ones, the major decisions of wanting to overcome depression itself, that one alone, that decision must be made by that person alone. So no matter how much we want to help someone, no matter how much we may know that we know can help someone else, we can't make that decision for them. That's why people who are suffering through depression have it so hard, because they have to go through the journey themselves to be able to make such a big decision. And it's big because they don't know any better and they're afraid. So sometimes you really have to take baby steps, and you can be really impatient to want to skip steps in order to get to that goal, but you can't skip steps because it's gonna make that foundation collapse, and then you start back at square one, and then you're just still at the bottom looking back up like, man, I'm so depressed, what the hell am I gonna do? Depression is a very, very difficult battle, and I just wanted to highlight that, when it comes to relationships, it's very difficult. It's not impossible. It's just really depends on the communication between the partners and, you know, how you guys go about it and what you're capable of doing. So I'm definitely not saying that people who are depressed shouldn't be in relationships. It's just very difficult to be. And, you know, for me, in my past relationship, you know, that's just something that I wanted her to acknowledge. It's like, you know, that's just how we were in the past. We did everything we could. I did everything I could. You know, you did everything you could, even though you were depressed and you have your life cut out for you. That's like the biggest reason for her depression, is just that she's living in a way that she's kind of forced to. She doesn't want to, but she has no choice. At least that's how it is in her mind. But that's a battle for everyone else. That's like a decision that they have to make on their own, separately, on what it is they want for their life and what they expect. One of the last things I wanted to say was that, you know, when relationships don't work, it's okay. It usually teaches you a lesson in that sense, because there's always a reason on why a relationship doesn't work. When you find that reason, you can learn from it. You can learn that, you know, maybe there's just some more room for you to grow, maybe for the other person as well, or maybe that you guys just aren't right for each other, and maybe you guys are simply intersecting at the path in that time, and you're just moving on to better things. And you're just moving on to better things. There's no right or wrong for that, but what's important is not to dwell on the past. I like to say that I'm actually pretty proud of myself for giving her that reply. She was surprised that I even replied to her at all on Instagram. She probably thought I was angry at her the whole time, and at some point I was, but I know better. And especially when you look back on something like that for so long now, like, you're like, yeah, you know, that was the old me, that was the younger me, and they just didn't know any better. So I hope that helps you. I'm trying to keep this as short as possible because I got a lot going on right now. Remember, don't dwell on the past. Keep doing what you need for your happiness, for your sake, in order to help other people, in order to make someone else happy. It's not being selfish, it's just learning how to respect yourself first. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good one. See you in the next one. I'm going to Universal Studios soon for my girlfriend's birthday. Yay! And I've never been to Universal, so we'll try to get some of that footage for the next video. And hopefully that video comes before Friday, because I've only been posting Fridays and I feel very bad for that. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. You're amazing.